Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show, where we talk about all components of business and how to utilize them for exponential growth. My name is Athin Cassiotis, and I help business owners grow, scale, cut costs, and increase profit. And today, I have an awesome guest. He's an entrepreneur, speaker, author of SYSTEMology, host of the Business Systems Simplified podcast, and lover of standard operating procedures, or SOPs. In 2016, he successfully systemized himself out of his business, one of Australia's most trusted digital agencies, Melbourne SEO Services. He hired a CEO and stepped back from the daily operations. Through this process, he became a systems devotee, founding systemHUB and SYSTEMology. And today, his mission is to free all business owners worldwide from the daily operations of running their business. And he's recognized as a high-achieving entrepreneur. You will find many of his keynote presentations on YouTube, including TEDx, WordCamp, and Problogger. Welcome, David Jenyns, and thank you for being on my show.
Hey, Athin, pleasure to be here. This is going to be such a great episode.
Sure is, mate. So awesome to have you here. I'm sure there's going to be huge amounts of value for everyone watching and listening today. So you're a very successful entrepreneur. So for those people who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself by telling us about you and your journey.
Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur since day dot. I remember when I left school, I thought, this is what I want to do. I didn't even go to university. I thought, I just want to start making money. So I started trying a bunch of different opportunities and building businesses and trying things, and really had a good variety of different businesses I've been involved in. Everything from importing products from the US and China, mail order businesses. I was in the stock market education space. We even had a rock and roll clothing music store. There was a physical store. We got 3 stores and we started to franchise that business. And then the one I'm most well known for is the digital agency. And I was in that business for about 10 years. And I kind of learned some real key lessons because I've always had a little bit of an understanding and appreciation of systems and processes. But for some reason, when I got to the digital agency, I thought this business is different because it's online and things move so quickly. How can you write systems? They'll just become out of date. And we're a creative agency and my team won't follow the systems even if I create them because it's going to remove that creativity. And I had all of this baggage in my head, which I thought I got over with the previous businesses I was involved in, especially the rock and roll clothing music store, because we franchised it. But when it came to the digital agency, I got stuck in that business for about 10 years. And it wasn't until we found out we were pregnant. And I thought to myself, I don't want to be that dad who's just always too busy. And I have seen other digital agencies that have been able to systemize and remove key person dependency, allow the business owner to step out of the day-to-day. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do. And I really leaned into that and got a great result. Like I was able to systemize, step away, took a year off, hired a lady who ran it. And she ran that successfully for about 3 years, where I was really just checking in with her about once a month, and we'd sit down with strategy and make sure that she was sort of on point and meeting KPIs and things. And my plan was actually never to sell that business because it was doing quite well for me. And then she got the bombshell. She had some family things that she had to move back to the US for. And I was in that moment. Systemology was just a thought. And I thought, oh, do I really want to get pulled back into the digital agency? No, maybe now's the time to sell it. And I realized one of the huge values of systemizing a business is that you have a saleable asset at the other end. And I was able to find a buyer, got a great exit, and then was able to roll into SYSTEMology and have really found that's where my passion is. It's helping business owners who are the bottlenecks in their business, consumed with everything, and really helping them to transition to have businesses that are less dependent on them. And yeah, we bottled that methodology. I wrote a book about it called SYSTEMology, get some fantastic reviews on that. I got recognized by the godfather of business systems, Michael E. Gerber, who wrote the book, The E-Myth. He ends up, I was lucky to do some work with him, and he wrote the foreword to the book. And it's very much the how-to guide or the implementation guide for a lot of the E-Myth thinking, which is this whole idea of building businesses that work beyond any specific person.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Great story. Love that. Yeah, you've had that entrepreneurial journey for a while, and yeah, getting yourself out of that business, because a lot of people, probably don't think about that. I need to do everything and things there. And I know that there's, a lot of myths, I guess, with, business processes and why most people fail. I think there's about 7 or so that you talk about in the book. So do you want to maybe, share some of these myths here on what we can help us?
Yeah. These kind of like bubble up for people. Oftentimes it's a lot of baggage that they might have about what they think systems are or how they should look. Because of, maybe they look to McDonald's and they see McDonald's, oh, that's a systemized business. That's the way I should systemize my business. And McDonald's has been doing this for 60 years. And if you look at what McDonald's has got today and you think, oh, that's where I got to start. You want to think about where did McDonald's get started 60 years ago? And some of the myths people have are things like you're going to need to create hundreds of systems to really have an impact and to systemize your business. But you can apply the 80-20 rule to so many things, and you can apply it to business systems. And you think about what are the 20% of the systems that deliver 80% of the result for the business, and you just focus on systemizing those. Other myths are things like that the business owner thinks that they're going to need to be the person who does all of the documentation, when the truth is the business owner is usually the worst person on the team to be doing the documentation because they're just so busy and putting another thing on their list. Not to mention they probably don't even like it. Most business owners are creative entrepreneurs, big picture thinkers. They don't want to be writing out bullet points and taking screenshots on, how to make a graphic in Canva. So that myth that you're going to need hundreds, or the business owner is going to do it, or people think that they're just so time consuming and they think, oh, it's going to take hours to make one of these, when reality, you can just record yourself doing the task. And oftentimes that's a great start. People think that they're going to need some sort of complex software, when really complexity is the enemy of business systemization. So you want to go for simplicity first. You'll never master the complex if you first can't master the simple. So keeping things simple at the start is absolutely critical. People think that, what's the point of creating systems? Because my team's not going to follow them anyway. Like I write them, but they do their own thing. So they don't even try. But the truth is it's all about how you recruit, how you indoctrinate and introduce it right up front. Because A players actually love systems and processes when it shows them how to win the game. If they're playing the game of working in your business and they want to be a star performer, and you can go, well, here's the shortcut on how to be a star performer, they love it. And there's a whole host of them. Things like that they'll need to, we touched on this idea of systemizing like McDonald's, or that they should try and, people try and make their systems just right and perfect the first time round. Whereas one of the rules of systemology is just capture what you're currently doing as best practice, not what you would like to be doing. So there's a whole bunch of these things that float around. And when you test these assumptions, like I did with Melbourne SEO, that's what I found. I was holding all of this baggage, and then I thought, no, I'm going to systemize. I know for me to grow through this, I have to master business systems. It's a critical component of business. And then I started testing all of these assumptions that I had. And then I realized that's not true. For some reason, I just came to that conclusion. But I'm not McDonald's. I'm not building a fast food chain, and I don't need to hire 15-year-old kids off the street to flip hamburgers. I'm hiring smart, intelligent people that come pre-baked with a certain amount of intelligence and knowledge. And the idea of the system is a guide to be a shortcut for them, but I also don't need to tell them how to suck eggs. So some things they're going to know how to do. And really having respect for the team and what it is that they can do is a big part of this. So there's a lot there. I don't know if any of those resonated with you, or if you see with some of the clients and businesses that you work with, why people seem to have resistance to business systems.
Yeah, great points there, David, and really powerful. And I think, from what I'm seeing as well, it's a big challenge to entrepreneurs is like relinquishing control. Right, is one thing. It's like, oh, only I can do it the best. Like these other people can't do it as good at me. Is that sort of, what you're seeing as well is a big thing?
Quite often. And one of the reasons we say the business owner is the worst person to do the documentation, because if the business owner does it, they want to get it just right, and they start thinking about the picture in their head of what they would like it to be. And then this task of documenting just becomes this overwhelming beast of hundreds of systems that need to be created, and I'm going to have to do it because only I can do it to a certain standard. And it's actually that thinking that creates the business owner as the bottleneck. So oftentimes it's rare that a thinking that gets you into a challenging position, it's rare that you keep following that same line of thinking to get out of the problem. So the reason the business owner is the bottleneck is because they say, yes, I can do everything. Oh, there's a problem, ask me. Oh, I can only do it, no one can do it as good as me, so I'm going to have to create the system. Like, that thinking is what makes you the bottleneck. So thinking that you're going to have to create all the systems is only going to exacerbate that. What we're actually looking at doing is breaking some of the bad habits. And you hit the nail right on the head there, because that's a real common one. And sometimes done is better than not done. Even if, it's half done or it's version 1, just class every system you create for the first time or that your team creates as version 1. You can iterate and improve. Infinitely better to have something than nothing and have it trapped in someone's head.
Yeah, love it, mate. Thanks for delving more deeper into that. And doing that mindset, that, shift that needs to happen so that we can, empower our team and other people to help us along the same stage. And I know in the book as well, you mentioned about like the 4 stages of business systemization as well. So there's sort of different levels of that. So you want to maybe get into that a little bit too. Yeah,
it's a good thinking tool, because whenever you're trying to get somewhere, you think about where you are, then you think about where you want to get to, and then it becomes much easier to go, well, what actions do I need to take to get there? So with the thousands of businesses that we've worked with over the years, we've identified that businesses really fall into 4 areas or 4 stages when it comes to business systemization. And the first stage we call survival. And that's where the business owner really is very much the bottleneck. Everything's kind of channeling through them. There aren't any processes in place. The team don't really like processes, and what's holding them there, it's actually that the business owner doesn't even recognize that they have this problem. It's almost like unconscious incompetence. And the performance there really is very up and down in survival mode. It's, I need work. I've got to go out. I'll do some sales and marketing. Great. I've got work. And then they forget about the sales and the marketing. They focus on doing the work. Okay, I've finished that product or that project. Great. Now, I've got to get more clients again. Now they go out and do the marketing. Oh, I've got work. And it's just this. And that's stage 1. The key really to break through stage 1, the biggest thing is just to realize that you are the bottleneck. And it's that line of thinking. If you're the bottleneck, you're very rarely going to get your way out of that issue with the same line of thinking. And you elevate yourself into stage number 2, which we call stationary. So stationary is where you've got some team members that do things a certain way, but all of that IP is very much trapped inside their head. So you kind of have some systems in a way, they're just not documented. And the performance here, stationary, I mean, the name gives it away. It's pretty flat when you're in stationary mode, because oftentimes you've hit that glass ceiling. Like, you've got to the point where you're, maybe you're the business owner and you've got 7 or 10 employees and you're maxed out and you're spending most of your time giving staff work. It's like you're spinning a plate. You give this staff number 1 some work, you go to the next one, give staff number 2 some work, staff number 3, all the way through to staff number 7. And then it's the weekend, and then you try and do your work in the evenings, in the mornings, on the weekends, because you're all busy during the week, keeping everybody busy. And then by the time you get to the end of the last person, you've got to circle back around to the first person and load them up again with work. Because it's the way that the management is happening, it's very task driven rather than role driven, and being in that space really traps the business owner and team members, because you're so key person dependent. The secret to break through that level, a big part of it is getting the IP out of the heads of those team members who now know how to do certain things. And then you move to the next level, which we call scalable. Now, scalable, you start to get some systems and processes in place, but it's a little bit patchy. Like maybe you got some finance systems, maybe you have some sales systems, but your marketing or your delivery systems are rubbish. So you kind of have this patchy thing where it's a little bit clunky. It kind of works. We are seeing a little bit of growth. It's just not smooth. And I feel like I'm still just solving problems all the time. Like I haven't got to a point where we could really ramp this up and I could know I've got robust systems, because the wheels would fall off. Like you might 10x or 100x your lead flow or your clients, and then that would cause big time issues maybe in the sales or operations, for the delivery of the product or service. So that's scalable. And a lot of people, when they get to scalable, they actually think, scalable, this is where I want to be. Like, who doesn't want to be unscalable stage? Because you read something like Scaling Up, the Vern Harnish book. And I mean, a lot of people talk about this idea of scaling, and that seems like a great place where that idea, it's almost like good enough traps you and it holds you back from getting to the final stage. The final stage is actually where all of the magic happens. And we call this final stage saleable. And when you get to saleable, a few things happen. Firstly, whether you or not you sell is irrelevant. It's the idea of building a business as though it were saleable. Kind of like my digital agency that I talked about. I wasn't planning on selling it, but I got it to saleable, which then also gave me the option should an unforeseen circumstance pop up. But not only that, it was running so efficiently at that point in time. And one of the biggest ways that you've reached the saleable stage is when your team says, this is how we do things here. When you have a way of doing things and more senior team members indoctrinate the newer team members when they come on board, and the default response is, do you know how I send that email out of Aweber? Jump into systemHUB and have a look there. See if you can find the process in there. If you can't find the process, then circle around and let me know. You found the process? Great. Let me know if you've got some questions. Read through that first. And this idea, I got this one from Michael Gerber. He said, view your system or your business as a school. Every business is a school. And the whole idea is to take your students, which is your brand new staff members that join you, and how do you train them up in the least amount of time to make them productive? So you think of your business as a school. And when you build this ecosystem and you build this systems thinking and this culture into the business, the team starts to drive it themselves and they look to optimize and improve, and things start to run more smoothly like a Swiss watch. And when problems arise, you have a way for capturing them and solving them, but not just solving them once off dependent on someone. You go to the core root level of the system. How do we fix the system? And that's when you kind of know you've made it. And it's not a one and done. Once you actually get to that final stage, it's the pursuit of excellence at that point in time. Once you build a systems driven culture, you don't go, I'm systemized, I'm done now. Like that just becomes part of the way that you do business. And then you look at someone like McDonald's, who then stuck with that same thinking for 60 years. Now we see what the output of systems driven thinking can deliver. So there are some key insights there, but if you can identify, like the listener now, if they think, where am I? I'm in stationary mode. Great. I'd love to get to saleable mode. Well, there are some things that you can do at each stage. Like if you're in stationary mode, think about extracting. If you're in scalable mode, you want to think about organizing your knowledge in a central location and training the team to know this is where we store our knowledge. This is the brain of the business. We talk about a little bit more in the book, but that's kind of like broad brushstrokes. Where are you? Where do you want to get to? And it makes it much easier to then go, okay, well, what steps do I need to think about? I'm not going to think about optimizing my system if I'm back in survival mode. I'm going to think about I'm the bottleneck and I've got to get to stationary mode.
Yeah, love it, mate. Really powerful. Thanks for explaining all of that. And I'm sure everyone can, pick where they're at and go, okay, what do I need to do to get to that next level? And then what I love, in the book as well, you on top of that, you've, I guess, layered your own sort of 7-stage process of systemology about moving people through. So do you want to maybe, talk a little bit through that and how that helps us as well?
Yeah, perfect. So this whole idea, I mean, the biggest question, I find business owners now have reached the point of going, I get it, I need business systems. Like I have never had a discussion with a business owner where that business owner goes, nah, business systems, nah, not important. They won't work for me. So it's almost like all of the books and things that have come before systemology, we've reached a point now where we've built the case. What systemology is that, well, where do I start? Answering the questions like, what are the first 10 to 15 systems I should build? 7 stages takes you through. So the first stage in systemology is define, and it's just about identifying the 10 to 15 systems. We have a little exercise we call the critical client flow, and you basically map this linear journey that your dream client goes through to deliver a core product or service. Then stage number 2 is, we call it assign. That's all about, where does the knowledge currently exist? So if in step number 1, we identified the 10 to 15 systems, step number 2 is, who other than the business owner knows how to do the thing? Sally knows how to answer the phone and handle the incoming inquiry. Great. Well, let's capture what Sally's doing, and that becomes version 1 of the system. So that's the assign stage. Then the next stage is the extract stage. The extract is, how do we get it out of the heads of the team members? Because your best team members are just like your business owner. They're busy. And if you go to them and say, can you document your systems and your processes? They're going to go, sure, I'll pop it on my to-do list, and when I get some time, I'll get to it. So they never get to it. So the key for the extract phase is about 2 or 3 secrets I share in the book. 1, it's a 2-person job. You always have the knowledgeable worker, but you have a separate person, the documenter, who actually meets with the person, records them doing the thing, and then does the documenting. So that is a key one. The other thing is, you develop what we call a system for creating systems. Again, that's something we just give ours away in the book, but the system for creating systems is what you give to the documenter to say, and this is how we document something. So that 3rd stage is extract. Then the 4th stage is organize. And that's all about, once we've extracted all of these systems, where are we going to store them? Most people have them scattered all over the place. They're on Google Drive. They're in someone's folder on a desktop. They're on Sally's mobile phone under the notes. Like, they're everywhere, which really means they're nowhere. So it's about centralizing and organizing that knowledge and thinking about what your software stack will look like. Then step number, we're up to step number 5. Yeah, so we've done extract, assign, we've done define, assign, extract, organize. Yep, so the next one that we think about is integrate, which is all about then getting the team on board. How do you meet the resistance of, but I've always done it this way. Why do I have to change the way I'm doing something? We haven't needed systems in the past. And those team members who create a little black box around them. Like, some team members don't want you to know what they're doing because they fear that once you know that, they'll be more easily replaced. And they like the idea of job security. And by you not knowing exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it, they feel that creates job security from them. So there's a lot of issues around, how do we get buy-in from the staff? And the biggest secret for that stage is, you always think of it in terms of the vantage point of the team member. Don't make this about the business owner. The business owner, you don't go to a staff member and say, the reason I'm putting systems in place is so that this business can run without me. I can go on a holiday, loads of cash can be deposited into my bank account with little or no work from me, and I'm going to have a super business that's hugely valuable. Like, that's not going to inspire any team members. You think about what is the benefit to them, and systems helps their work be easier. Systems helps them go away on a holiday, and when they have a holiday, they can actually take time off and think about being on holiday, not oh, did I send that email? Oh, I hope someone's going to follow up on that thing. And most people, when they go away on holidays in small business, they take a week off and then they spend the next month when they come back catching up for the 1 week that they had off, because now they have to double time. So other times you can position it where you let the team member know, when you systemize, this helps you move up in our organization. Like if you can systemize what you're doing, delegate it to lower cost team members, that actually makes you more valuable to the team, because now you can work on higher quality things. There's a range of things that we deal at that 5th stage, which is all about integrate. Then the 6th stage is scale. And it's this idea of, if in stage number 1, we identified the 10 to 15 systems that you start with, well, stage 6 is all about, what other systems do we need for scale? What are our recruitment systems and our onboarding systems? What are our financial systems and our management systems? Like, what are those systems that are critical? Again, it's all about the 80-20. If you were going to sit down and get a spreadsheet out and you thought, if I was going to pick out the top 40 systems in my business that were mission critical, what are they? And let's just start there. And that's what that thinking is. And the final stage is the optimized stage. And I deliberately put it at the end as a real key lesson to the business owner, that the optimizing happens at the end. Just get good enough down first, because version 1 is where you'll start. And in that final stage around optimize, we talk about putting in a dashboard, how to listen to your systems and your business, and how do you respond as issues bubble up, and how do you fix it at the systems level. But it's that staged process, the 7 stages: define, assign, extract, organize, integrate, scale, and optimize. When they're kind of stitched together, it just becomes much easier to know how to systemize a business and get on the track. So yeah, that's a little bit, I don't know if any questions popped out there. I know sometimes I just get on a roll and it's hard to jump in.
Yeah, no, awesome, mate. That was really powerful. And you gave some great examples, of what to do at those stages and what not to do. And yeah, I love the optimize later, because I think, I'm probably like that sometimes. I'm like, oh, we're doing something, trying to teach it. I'm like, oh, but we could do this a little bit better. Let me just look into this for a little bit. And you sort of, can sometimes go into that entrepreneur mode when you shouldn't be doing that when you're training people. You should do it later. So really powerful, mate. Thanks for sharing all of that. And I guess, a key thing here is about our team, right? Like you talked about, the A players, right? We want to get a group of A players, and there's finding them, recruiting them, retaining them as well, to make sure they're engaged and enjoy working there and everything like that. So do you want to maybe go a little bit deeper in, those team dynamics as well?
It's definitely a key part of making all this work, because when you introduce systems, the biggest resistance you will get is actually your existing team. All new team members, when they come on board, if you get the recruitment and onboarding right, this is all they've ever known. They only know your systems approach. So the resistance and buy-in is infinitely easier because they know it up front. So with that mindset in mind, it kind of makes the whole idea of recruitment and onboarding and getting that process down really, really important. That's how you build and grow a team of A players. Sometimes when people first get started out, like as a business owner, if you got, it's just a real small team, you just think about warm bodies and how can I get someone to get on, and, oh, this person knows that person and they've referred them in. Great. I'll just get you started here. Oh, you're a friend or a family. Great. Let's get started. And that's okay. There will become a point where you need, like, if you want to grow, you focus on A players, because A players make everything easier for you. Even if you've got average systems, the A player is going to get a great result. But if you've got amazing systems and an average team member, you'll still get an average result, even though your systems are amazing. So the person aspect, the people, your team, is such a critical component. And it is the only exception in the book that I talk about, saying of every other system, capture what you're currently doing, not what you would like to be doing. With the exception of your recruiting and onboarding. You really should design a recruiting and onboarding process, because it'll set the tone for every new team member that comes on board, and it'll make it infinitely easier for you. once you get over the hump, that's why business systems is so hard for a lot of people, because all of the resistance comes up front. They meet the resistance and they go, this won't work. See, I told you, my team pushed back. No, it's not going to work. And then they abandon it. But all the glory and the benefit of the systems happens over that hump. Once you get past that resistance and you start adding in new team members, then you realize it's night and day difference. So that's probably the biggest insight there around finding and recruiting A players. There is an art and a science to it. You can distill it down to a system. And I mean, if you're not sure where to start, there's a great book called Top Grading. That's a great place to start around the recruitment part. And for the onboarding, there's a couple of different resources and things that we touch on in the book, and we give you some ideas as well. But it's just about giving someone all of the tools up front so they feel like they can, make a start, be productive, add value to your business. And sometimes it's just looking at some of your basic systems. Here are some of our important systems to the business. Learn these first.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Thanks for sharing that. And I guess, if we go a little bit deeper now, and I'm thinking more of the optimize stage again, because you're going to get these people in, right? But then at the same time, you want to optimize, automate a little bit more, things like that, in terms of the business. So I guess there's, whether or not you don't have to hire as many people because, there's things that are more automated. So can you cut, how much you're spending on wages or building a high performance team? So yeah, what do you want to share about like that sort of phase? It's not necessarily about hiring more people at the same time as well.
The good thing, the way that I think about automation is you always start off with human automation first. So creating a system and capturing what you're currently doing is actually one of the best ways to then automate and let the machine take over. Too many people go from, I'm sitting here right now and I want to jump to Zapier and some workflow system that connects this and auto does that and feeds that into that. Oh, that means I'm not going to be able, I don't have to do this whole workflow. And they start there. What happens there is you start automating the things that may not be important. It's harder to debug when something goes wrong. So you always start off with, well, what are the key steps? Then the final step, like you said, in optimize, that's when you think about the automation and adding it in, because it's much easier to go, here's what we're currently doing in our best practice. Step number 3, we can just set up a Zapier link and populate all of that data for that lead into our CRM. And you look at someone like Google, that's the way Google does things, which is the most systemized business just about in the world, along with your, Amazons and some of these other ones. And what does Google do? Google, if they want to make a change to their algorithm, they write a report first and they see, here's the new quality search guidelines. Great. Now we've written it out. Now let's give it to manual reviewers to go, great. Now I want you to grade websites following this manual that I've just given you. Great. Now we've done it. Did that improve the search results? It did. Okay. Well, let's now take those steps and turn it into a system and roll it into the algorithm. So even the most systemized business in the world doesn't just jump straight to automation. They first test it, come up with the hypothesis, give it a go. Did it improve? Great. Now let's systemize it. And it's the same approach for business, your business, the person listening.
Yeah. Awesome, mate. Thanks for sharing that as well. And I guess we go a little bit deeper now in automation, because you mentioned Zapier and CRMs, and obviously, having software systems is obviously extremely important, right, in our business. And, obviously there could be simpler ones initially and then obviously go more. So yeah, what can you share about, some key software systems that you think will really help us to be, more efficient in our business as well?
I think there are a handful of software that you should have in place as you start to grow and you get a team. Firstly, you'll need some form of financial software, MYOB, Xero, something like that. That makes that whole process of invoicing, reconciling infinitely easier. So you've got to tick that box. The other box you want to tick is some form of CRM, maybe / marketing automation, somewhere where you can put your leads and your prospects, get them into somewhere where you can then continue to nurture and work with them and do what you can to sell them, to move them up into, great, we're ready to do business. So, I mean, sometimes you split that out, like you might have a sales CRM and you might have marketing automation, but if you're just getting started, just something to handle the leads is a great place to start. The other two that I really think you need, particularly to get some team members on board, one is project management software. So you need like a Trello, Teamwork PM, Asana, Monday, ClickUp. Like, there's a truckload of them. And it really doesn't matter which one you choose, as long as you've got one. You just want a place that you can very clearly identify who does what by when. If you can identify who does what by when, that helps to move it out from email, give clear accountability on who is doing what by when. So that's the key one. And then the last one, I call it systems management software. So it's initially you might start off with Google Docs, and you've got a folder, and your system for how you answer the phone is in a Google Doc, sitting in a Google folder that you share, a Google Drive amongst your team. That's where you start. But it's once you're after, over probably about 5 staff, you really need to start to think about something that is purpose designed, because we all know what it's like if you've done any sort of systems and you're trying to do it with Google Drive. It becomes just an unorganized mess of duplicate files, incomplete things, not formatted the same. Like, it's just one red hot mess. So there is a transition period. I mean, that we discovered that's actually why we designed systemHUB. So that's one of those platforms, systemhub.com. You can find out a little bit more about it, but it's a central place to store all of your systems. And it needs to be purpose built and purpose designed, because systems are probably the most important asset in the business, because the people will come and go, but the systems are what remains with you. So if you get those bases covered, financial, you think about some sort of, CRM or marketing automation or combination of both, project management and systems management, they're the real key systems you want to get in place.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Thanks for sharing. And yeah, some key things for us to make sure it helps us to grow and scale. And like a lot of things we can't do ourselves, right? We need to learn from others. And I know in the book you've thanked, many people and things that have helped you along your journey. And, coaches and mentors, along our journey are extremely important, right, for us to grow. So do you want to maybe share a little bit about how important, coaching mentoring has been for you, along your journey too?
Yeah, look, I've had business coaches, I've had colleagues and peers, and I've had the good fortune of working with some industry leaders like Michael Gerber, obviously forever the student, under even just reading books and things like that. Like, I love Gino Wickman's book. He's got one called Traction, which had a big impact for us, and also another called Rocket Fuel. A lot of Vern Harnish's stuff, which is the guy who wrote Scaling Up. And there's just a tremendous amount of information out there. And I think becoming that lifelong learner, not to mention then you add all the personal development stuff in, you add your Tony Robbins and your Jim Rohns and all those sorts of things. I think it's important to get that direction, especially, sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. I mean, it's a little bit cliche, but if you're stuck in the thick of it, you might even know something and the solution, but you can't see it because of where you are in your proximity. And that's really what a mentor or someone with that visibility can give you. They're just outside of the machine, so that it's much easier for them to give you direction when they're looking at the maze from a different vantage.
Yeah, love it, mate. Completely agree. Massively impactful with coaches and mentors. And I guess a lot of people like to talk about the great stuff, but there's a lot of challenges, right, that happen in business and things like that. So do you want to maybe just share in your business journey, maybe a big failure or challenge, whatever you want to call it, and maybe how you had to overcome it as well?
I mean, the biggest one that I keep coming back to, because it's got that systems theme to it, is that digital agency. Because I'd already done Planet 13, I'd done some bunch of stuff in stock market education space. My dad was a systems engineer. Like, I know systems. It's kind of baked into my DNA. But then for the digital agency, I thought that business was different. I got trapped in it for 10 years. Whenever there was a problem, whether it was staff or clients, they would come to me. Oh, Dave will know how to solve that. And I trained my staff to do that. And that was the way that they did things. If they had a challenge, they would come to me. And it was great to a point. We grew to a certain size, but probably after about 3 or 4 years, we just plateaued. And I probably lost about 6 years of me doing the same thing every day, wax on, wax off. I'm just solving. It was like whack-a-mole. And yeah, kind of getting that kick up the bum and thinking, this is not the way that business should be. And it's kind of like I got stuck. You have to evolve through those 4 stages of business systemization. And the way that I did it, I ended up getting the pressure of, hey, we're going to have kids. And that was my turning point. Some people don't need turning points like that. Like, for everybody listening, you just have to think about, maybe you've been in business for 6 years, 10 years, and you're like, I haven't really moved. Okay, well, maybe that's enough to put pressure on you. You've got to find, how do you get leverage on yourself? What opportunities have you missed because you weren't systemized? What family engagements and weddings and birthdays or whatever that you've missed, or chance to play with your kids because you're so in the zone with your business and it's sucking 70 hours, 80 hours of your work week away because you haven't quite figured this out. Grinding through it, there is a level of grind, and there's a culture of this hustle culture, and that is important. There are times to do that and there are times not to do that. But just the grind on its own is not enough, because you build up the habit of the grind, and if there's a problem, I'll just grind my way through it, and it's left up to you. So for me, it was kind of like just breaking that habit. That was, and it was a hard one to break because the business was successful from the outside looking in. I mean, before SYSTEMology, I'd written another book called Authority Content, doing some speaking engagements. Like, outside looking in, it looked like a really successful business, but it was bleeding me dry. So I think that's probably something for anyone listening, they might resonate with that. Like, you've got to find a way. The systems will compound on themselves. And I've seen businesses with systems and systems without, and it's night and day. I will never build a business now without systems. It's essential.
Yeah. Love it, mate. Thanks for sharing that. And how we can not go down a similar path where we're, playing whack-a-mole the whole time in our business. Love that analogy there too. And so much value has been shared today. I guess as we're wrapping up now today, one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
Look, the main thing, hopefully this episode just started a fire in you. And it's not that you need to fall in love with documentation. Fall in love with the result of what systems bring. I don't like writing systems and processes myself. I'm the systems guy who wrote a book about systems, but I don't like documenting systems. I find it brain numbing and it doesn't get me going. That's okay. That's normal. Fall in love with what business systems bring. And hopefully if we relit your curiosity, then I call that a win. And if you start to test some of those false assumptions, big win. Like that's really what this episode was all about.
Yeah, awesome. I completely agree. So amazing there with that final piece of info. And we connected through our networks where I learned about your awesome journey from selling Australia's most beloved sporting venue, the Melbourne Cricket Ground, in your early 20s, to the franchising retail clothing stores, as you mentioned, to founding one of Australia's most trusted digital agencies, Melbourne SEO Services, and to more recently founding SystemHUB and SYSTEMology. You're an awesome guy. I'm sure everyone will agree, and I'm sure you'll continue to free all business owners worldwide from the daily operations of running their business. I'm very grateful that we connected, and I look forward to working with you in the future as well. So, David, how can people find you and get in contact with you?
Yeah, best place to go. We've got systemology.com, or if anything I've said is of interest, head over to Amazon, get your copy of Systemology. If you're listening to this, you're an audiobook person, so maybe you hop over to Audible. We have the Audible version of the book as well, and just start there. Just get some of these ideas bouncing around. And if you want to go deeper or have any questions, just that systemology.com. There's links to my socials. You can outreach to us. We offer lots of free support to kind of help you get up and running.
Yeah, awesome, guys. Definitely check it out. I actually just bought David's book here. Here it is, like 2 weeks or so before here. So got it there, making it happen. And I'm really looking forward to really delving deeper into it and putting this stuff in there. And yeah, I hope you all got inspired by this so you can really create those systems in your book. And thank you to everyone for watching and listening to this show where we talk about everything on business growth. And please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube as Athin Cassiotis, or visit my website, athincassiotis.com. If you want to grow, scale, cut costs, and increase profit in your business, you can reach out to me on any platform to see if we're a good fit. And I completely agree with you, or do I? The only way you'll know is if you tune in next time. So until next time, remember that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So remember to design your growth and results.